Yo les amis, c'est Spike, on se retrouve pour un nouveau résumé du dernier DevTalk question-réponse sur Last Epoch qui a eu lieu le vendredi 10 mai sur Twitch en compagnie de Mike comme d'habitude, un grand merci à lui. Alors dans ce résumé, on va en apprendre un petit peu plus sur le nouveau système d'éveil ainsi que sur le Pinnacle Boss et tout ce qui l'entoure, arrivant le 9 juillet prochain avec le patch 1.1, des informations sur l'arrivée de nouveaux skills ainsi que de nouvelles factions et bien d'autres encore. Alors comme d'habitude, un petit like et un commentaire pour le référencement et le soutien, merci par avance pour le visionnage, et on commence de suite avec des informations sur le système d'Evade. Alors petite information mais information importante concernant la mécanique d'Evade, Mike souhaite clarifier la situation sur l'utilisation du terme dodge roll, disant qu'il n'y a pas d'iframe lors de l'Evade, contrairement à un dodge roll comme on peut trouver par exemple sur un Dark Souls. Le but de l'Evade est de pouvoir se sortir rapidement d'une situation dangereuse voire mortelle, mais il n'annulera pas les dégâts subis si utilisé à un timing précis alors que votre personnage se trouve encore dans un AOE par exemple.
And we're gonna have some questions here. How are you feeling about the dodge button addition? So I'm gonna a request for everyone here, because a lot of you are frequently in the community. So a request from me to you. If you are talking about the evade mechanic we're adding, please use the term evade and not dodge roll, if possible, or both. But we really want to push the idea that this is it doesn't have iframes, and the term dodge roll I think sort of implies that it has iframes. So in order to make people not so if someone's just like comes into Reddit or comes into the forums and like checks it out and leaves, we want to make sure that it's that information is understood, and it is really easy to explain what it is at a core by using the term dodge roll because it's a more common mechanic. It's 99% that, and we did put it on the roadmap in parentheses, and so it's a bit of a gray area. But let's try and get the term evade out there as the term we're using for it, and we just got to be different, don't we? All right, we need more attack speed. What I'm missing is attack speed right now. Feels clunky. But if we're going to talk about how I'm feeling about the evade mechanic, I almost said dodge roll myself. If we're going to talk about the evade mechanic, I'm very pleased about it. It's also, the animation is unique, so it's not a roll for every character either. So part of the reason we're calling it evade too. It's not physically a roll, necessarily. As far as how I'm feeling about the mechanic itself, I'm feeling fantastic about the mechanic itself. It is one of those things that there was a lot of us that were firmly in camp, no dodge roll, no evade, and you know we got in there, we tried it, and it's just fun. Like even if you change nothing else, it's just fun. It doesn't really have a huge impact on the actual like mechanics of most fights, because like if you're using that, you're not attacking, so like it's not just like an always better thing to do, and it's not like you always have to do it, but it just feels like combat flows a little bit better. It just feels like you're not I don't know, you're not starved for a quick repositioning in the battlefield where you're like, oh, I wish I could take like a quick step that way without having to just like and like walking would feel a little cumbersome, and I don't want to burn my movement ability on just walking to the left a little bit. And this dodge roll just really, it fits nicely. It just feels good. So, and when I was writing that post, that was one thing I tried to emphasize at the start, was that the focus of this is flow and feel, just like how combat feels when you're using it is the main goal for this change.
Sans trop rentrer dans les détails, Mike explique que les Nemesis sont des ennemis que l'on rencontrera tout au long du jeu, et plus particulièrement dans le endgame, de la même façon que les exil mages. Alors on ne connaît pas l'intérêt ni les récompenses associées au Nemesis, mais il pourrait avoir un rôle dans la progression nous amenant au Harbinger, puis au Pinnacle Boss. Ce ne sont que des spéculations, c'est à prendre avec des pincettes, mais j'ai envie d'y croire. Pour ma part, peu importe s'il y a un lien ou non avec le Pinnacle, ça va donner plus d'intérêt à l'exploration des échos en monolithe au lieu de simplement rusher les objectifs. Nous avons les mages exilés, les gros coffres appelés les caches perdues, et le 9 juillet, nous aurons les Nemesis en supplément.
Should we expect the cycles to last 5 months and not 3 to 4 months instead? No, you should expect them to last 3 to 4 months. What is Random Encounters Nemesis? It is a I don't know how much detail I can actually go into about what it is and how it functions and all that sort of stuff. I would say it is the easiest way to describe it is the next mechanic along the same overarching weight as Exiled Mages. So it is it integrates itself into the overall end game, and there's cool stuff that happens, and it is of similar weight, and it starts happening pretty early in your experience overall, and like it's something that is relevant later on in your experience as well. So it's like it's another piece of that like unexpected content that we've been working into the game. And there's gonna be a full dev blog post on what that is, how it works, how you can interact with it, all that sort of stuff. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's a neat mechanic. It's kind of, I think it's very us. Like it's I don't think you're gonna quite. I think people will be surprised and pleased with with what ends up coming from that. But I can't really go into full details yet because we are still fine tuning some details and making sure that it just flows nicely, I guess.
Concernant le Pinnacle, Mike précise que c'est un boss très très dur, bien au-dessus de Julra tier 4, et que les joueurs plus casual mettront plus de temps avant d'arriver à le battre, et peut-être même qu'ils n'y arriveront jamais. Le patch 1.1 a été pensé pour tout type de joueurs, aussi bien les casus que les hardcore gamers, grâce aux Nemesis, aux Harbingers et au Pinnacle. Alors ceux n'ayant pas forcément beaucoup de temps à investir sur le jeu pourront tout de même profiter de nouvelles rencontres épiques avec les Nemesis tout au long du leveling. Ceux passant plus de temps sur le jeu mais n'ayant pas forcément le niveau de compétence pour tomber Julra T4 pourraient se frotter aux boss Harbingers d'un niveau de difficulté supérieur au Nemesis, et les tryharders ou ceux voulant tout simplement profiter de l'entièreté du jeu pourront se confronter au Pinnacle. Alors l'équipe est consciente qu'une bonne partie des joueurs n'arrivera pas à faire tomber le Pinnacle boss car il ne semble pas avoir de tiers de difficulté comme les boss de donjon, et ils sont embêtés par cette idée, mais ils tiennent à implanter un boss de très haut niveau afin d'introduire du challenge dans le endgame et un sentiment d'accomplissement pour ceux qui réussiront. Alors je vois beaucoup de retours de joueurs dire que le patch 1.1 est léger en contenu, sauf qu'au final on n'a aucune information sur la profondeur du patch et le temps nécessaire afin de débloquer le Pinnacle boss, ni même les prérequis. Les seules informations que nous ayons à l'heure actuelle sont l'ajout d'une multitude de boss, d'un Pinnacle, de l'evade, de changements globaux pour les factions, de l'équilibrage, des modifications liées à la ward et à la corruption, et une nouvelle méthode de damage reduction pour les boss.
Regarding the endgame Pinnacle boss next cycle, will there be anything exclusive items tied to them? And how do you account for the more casual player that might not be able to do Pinnacle bosses? I hope there won't be too much fear of missing out involved. This is this is a very tricky and delicate balance to achieve. I agree. I don't think so. So given the stats that we've looked at, with our the players that we've got in the game and the stats on like who's killing which boss and all that sort of stuff. If we, I think there might be a little bit of a misconception or disagreement on like where the line on the term casual is. If we're gonna put a line on how far a character gets as like, well, anything that can't do this is casual, anything that can do this is like hardcore or like try hard, and then everyone who does this is like no lifing it. If we're gonna put like lines on the progression map, like casual is probably like the line of like casual to like a more of a try hard player is like, did you complete the campaign or not? Like, you know, if we're still gonna go for like extreme majority, like, did you complete a monolith map? Like, did you beat any timeline boss? You are still you're like you're way above 50%. I think. It's just I haven't seen those numbers exactly, but they're very. I do know that they're very lopsided in how far most people actually get into the end game. I think there's a bit of a misconception there on how far it actually is. But so people who are we're designing the Pinnacle content such that if you are like maybe I don't have a long time to play every day, but like I'm gonna invest emotional or intellectual energy in doing this, and like I'll be able to get there eventually type thing. It is designed as Pinnacle content. So like if you're not able to complete what's already there as extremely hard static content, you're gonna have a really long road ahead of you for completing the Pinnacle boss, right? Like, because the Pinnacle boss is it's a step up from T4 Jewel Run. It is harder. I think most people would be like, well, obviously, but a tiny percentage of players kill T4 Jewel Run, right? So it is tricky there. And so one of the things we're trying to do is have the entire content have different stages of achievements and accomplishments. So there are like the Nemesis encounters tie into all of this, and that is one sort of stage of the accomplishments. Is like there's different stuff there that I can't talk about specifically, but like doing those things is part of the stages of accomplishments of this new content that's coming out. So there's stuff to do even if you're never going to hit, and there's relevant rewards for doing that content even if you're never going to make it to the Pinnacle boss, let alone beat it. And like there's other bosses too, and there's other challenges too, and like there's other things that happen. So like the harbingers that you see in there, all that stuff it's a progressive system that is that there are different levels of achievements that happen, and there's and you can like opt into harder and harder stuff, and it's this idea of players having room to challenge harder and harder content, and still feeling rewarded for completing what they can complete. But there is stuff that I think there already is stuff that the majority of players won't ever be able to finish, which I know sounds kinda bad maybe, but I don't see a way that we could possibly make the hardest boss in the game, the Pinnacle achievement boss in the game, not be too hard for some players. Like that's I think that's just a given of the situation. And it's sort of like, okay, how hard do we actually make it? And that's something that we are really trying to be careful about and fine tune. And I think it's something that we're going to get a lot of feedback on and adjust going forward too. It's not something that and I say this basically every time we introduce a new system. It's probably not something we're going to get perfect on the first try. And I hope we've shown that we are prepared to make changes if what we're doing isn't working. But I'm quite confident that the system is rock solid. We just kind of got to see how people feel about the difficulty, I think. And because there's different types of difficulty that comes in with systems like this. Like you're just like the big part of the end game content of this boss is how hard is this fight? How hard is this boss fight? Like there is a culmination point. That there's not a lot of time really in that. There's not a lot of stages. There's not like there are. It's a big fight. There's stages to the fight, but like there's not like gameplay session spanning stages is what I'm trying to get at. So you're like when you go into that final boss, you're either finishing that final boss or you're not. You're not getting part way and then being like, okay, well I'll come back and finish the rest of it later, which is the type of stuff that happens when you are working through the other parts of that system. And I'm really just talking about like Pinnacle boss systems in general in RPGs right now. Nothing really specific to us.
Autre petite information sur le Pinnacle Boss, mais je pense que tout le monde s'en doute, il aura sa propre table de loot, mais secret défense, on n'en saura pas plus pour l'instant.
Will the Pinnacle Boss have new loot that drops from it? Yes. Do I know anything about it? No.
Un tout nouveau système de réduction des dégâts concernant les boss arrive avec le patch 1.1 également. Pas plus d'informations dessus non plus, mais le système a été intégré en partie grâce au Pinnacle.
Going back to Boss DR, I just got confirmation. That was that little ding you heard. I'm going to turn off my notification sounds. But we did get confirmation that Boss DR is being replaced in 1.1. So when you are fighting the new Pinnacle boss, this is a lot of these things that we're unveiling are specifically for the Pinnacle boss fight. So yes, the Boss DR replacement system was designed very much with Pinnacle boss in mind, and is coming so that Pinnacle boss fight is more fun.
Pour résumer cette partie de la réponse de Mike, il n'y aura pas de nouveaux skills au patch 1.1, mais uniquement des mises à jour des skills déjà existants. De nouveaux skills arriveront au patch 1.2, 1.3 et 1.4, en plus du système de skill sigils au patch 1.4, permettant d'améliorer et modifier soi-même ses compétences.
The question is asking, is 1.4 the next time that new skills are going to come out? No, 1.4 is not the next time new skills are coming out. 1.4, there is a significant change to the skill system. We're adding in a new piece to the skill system called skill sigils. So that's gonna be an augment to the skill system overall. But there are updates to the skills coming in 1.1. So yeah, there's just not any new skills coming in 1.1. And there will be new skills coming in other, like 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. New skills are back on the table for those. Yeah, we actually were just talking about that yesterday.
De nouvelles catégories de factions vont arriver rapidement, très bientôt, pour reprendre les mots de Mike. Il y a quelques mois de cela, il expliquait que de nouvelles factions et sous-factions allaient voir le jour, et que les sous-factions seraient directement liées à la faction principale que nous avons choisie, c'est-à-dire soit Circle of Fortune, soit Martian Guild. Alors il aimerait pouvoir donner plus d'informations sur les prochaines factions, et termine en disant que l'on sera informé directement via les réseaux sociaux ou probablement le forum officiel dans un futur pas si lointain.
I know you've talked about future factions being added before, but I'm wondering, what can you say about the future factions? Like, when and what they may be. I'm also curious if you guys do a crafting guild, for example. Would the XP be gained by breaking down armor or crafting, or would the XP still be gained through killing monsters? So the faction system as a whole, like how factions work overall, there's a progress, a reputation progress that unlocks different ranks that do different things as you go. There's this favor that you generate by playing the game, or by some other method possibly too. But there's this favor that you generate, and you spend favor on things in the faction, which grants you reputation in the faction, which grants you more stuff you get in the faction. That really broad definition, that's a faction for us. That's as far as it goes. Every other thing is specific to whatever faction it is. So we are looking to add in new categories of factions, and you'll see those quite soon. Where you'll see like another category here that's like some other faction that sits here on its own that doesn't have another faction to go up against type thing, and it's really just a way of using this structure to clearly lay out progress in that system. That's really all it is. And by theming them as factions, we can have competing factions that become mutually exclusive. So sometimes we want to have mutually exclusive factions, and other times we don't. Can I give you any more information about what that specific next faction is going to be and how it's going to work and what it's going to do and all that sort of stuff? Absolutely not. I'm sorry. I'd love to, but you'll be getting information on that. Not too distant future, I think. Do social posts, that sort of stuff.
Allez, on termine ce résumé avec un petit teaser de ce qui pourrait être une arme ou une relique orientée Void, on n'en saura pas plus pour le moment. Merci à tous d'avoir suivi, on se retrouve très rapidement pour un nouveau résumé DevTalk et une vidéo de community build. Amusez-vous bien, à bientôt les slashers.
This over on Streamlabs, so I'm looking at this. So this is a thing that's coming at some point. I almost said what it was. Nice staff? Maybe. I don't see a staff when I see that.